audio test for console work session.
Very nice. Yeah. for him to come today, so
Yeah,
it's kind of a spur of the moment.
but that's fine, that's good.
What do you think?
Didn't catch it.
like what you all have, but for smaller farms that wouldn't
Nice.
It's not, yeah, he's getting started now. Make sure we're ready. Okay, welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and get started with the meeting. And, for the record, we have two council members here. Once Councilwoman Killingworth get here, we'll go ahead and gavel in and make it official. Let's just proceed with what is on the agenda. I would like to go ahead and move to the Wake County Farmland Preservation Program presentation. And today we have Lauren Hendrickson and Trevor Hyde, and then also Teresa. Wake County Soil and Water. They came to my office yesterday with a presentation. I thought would be good for our colleagues and staff to hear what's going on with this preservation program. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Should y'all be flexible and
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Henderson. I'm the Farmland Preservation Coordinator for Wake County Soil and Water.
I'm Trevor Hyde, I'm the local foods agent for Wake County Cooperative Extension.
So we're invited here today to talk a little bit about our new farmland preservation program in the county. I think there are some great opportunities for partnership and collaboration between what we do at the county level and what different municipalities might have on their agendas as far as preservation of farms, preservation of open space, natural land. So I'm going to tell you about our program, and hopefully we can find some ways to collaborate in the future. So a little bit of background on Wake County and the state of agriculture. I'm sure some of this is probably not surprising to most of you as far as the way the county has grown. So Wake County, approximately 56 new residents per day, one of the fastest growing counties in the country. In one of the recent American Farmland Trust report on farmland laws, which is conducted over 5 or 10 years, the recent 2040 Farms Under Threat report showed that North Carolina is the second most threatened state as far as agricultural land loss, second to Texas. And Wake County is one of the top 3 counties within North Carolina, of course, that is losing land rapidly. So in the past 10 years, we've lost 23,000 acres of productive agricultural land to other land uses. So in the last 10 years, we've lost 3,000 acres. But as of the recent 2022 ag census, we still have 642 farms. That's cut off. That is 62,300 some odd acres. But it's about 62,000 acres remaining. There we go. 323 acres of land remaining in Wake County. So think of that number as we move on to the next slide here. So in that same Farms Under Threat report that the American Farmland Trust issued, they have different development scenarios where they project future loss. There are 3 of them. And so the first one, for 2040 in Wake County, they project about 32,000 acres of land, additional land converted. That would be about half of what we have remaining. Under the business as usual approach, which I mean, the titles for these names, they do have the definitions, but they are as they sound. Business as usual, obviously, is about 46,600 acres converted. And the final worst case from our perspective would be runaway sprawl, which is uncontrolled development, and that would result in about 56,000 acres converted. So that is about all of what we have left. So what we realize and what we want to make sure of is that we not getting to the runaway sprawl level, and we are hopefully creating a more sustainable growth pattern so that we can be closer to the better built cities way of future growth and have farmland in the future to grow food. So as of last year, we formally adopted and established the Wake County Farmland Preservation Program. That was a result of years of effort by staff in Soil and Water, as well as the county manager's office and our commissioners. And really, that was to build upon one existing program and then make it a lot stronger. So there are three main program offerings with our farmland preservation program. We have the voluntary ag districts, enhanced voluntary ag districts, and conservation easements. I'll get into those in a little bit in detail. So the voluntary ag districts, we had in the past, we've had that for about 20 years in Wake County. But the two other programs listed there are our new offerings. Those are seen as much stronger conservation options. If you want to think of these as a ladder, you've got VAD at the bottom as far as your level of commitments. The low commitment option, and it ascends all the way up to conservation easements with your highest level of commitment. That is a permanent ordeal, permanent commitment made by a landowner for the piece of land. So in addition to those two new program options, a whole new branding marketing scheme developed by our communications staff. We have a new full-time staff position, that's me. So I didn't exist here until this program last year. And we also have a whole new back-end system to manage new online applications, new database. And now I'm going to go into the programs a little bit. So voluntary ag districts, what it is, it's a 10-year commitment that a landowner makes with Wake County Soil and Water and Wake County to maintain agricultural operation for that time period. It is not binding and it's not tied to the deed. So a landowner can opt out of that at any time if they choose. We just ask that they let us know if they would like to do so. Some of the protections and benefits for the VAD include record notice. They include the right to a public hearing for any potential condemnations that may come, whether it be DOT projects or other utility projects. And really, it just it lets the community know that you are concerned with agriculture and you would like to remain on a productive farm. And it really helps with planning too. We've seen it recently for Wake County planning. It helps with future land use plans by signaling the intent of a community in their direction they want to chart for the future. So when you have a lot of ag land and none of it's in VAD, it's hard to know if that will be farms in the next 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. But when you see a big block of voluntary ag district land on the map, it sends a little bit stronger message, and our planning staff to really recognize that. Enhanced voluntary ag districts builds on VAD. The main difference here is this is a commitment on the deed. So when a landowner enrolls in the EVAD program, that parcel is tied to that conservation agreement for 10 years. After that period, of course, anything else can happen. Doesn't mean the land can't be bought and sold, but the protection runs with the land and referred to it. And it has a lot of the same protections as VAD and same benefits as VAD, I should say. And the last option we have are conservation easements. This is our strongest, most permanent option. This is for landowners who are looking to make sure that their farm remains a farm forever. And in a lot of these cases, we are working with landowners on funded easements. So we are applying to state and federal grant programs, as well as using local match money to help basically offset that cost of selling their development rights. But so, as I mentioned, the last conservation easement option, without matching funds, it is a lot harder to make conservation easements successful. And so, knowing that, last year, the Wake County Board of Commissioners decided to allocate the annual rollback taxes to fund permanent conservation easements, to fund our farmland preservation program. So the rollback money comes from any land that's in the state's present use value program. It's in this cycle of deferred taxes, and when the land comes out of production, whether it's sold for commercial residential development or some other reason, those back taxes are due. And every year that is collected into a pot, and it's called the deferred tax funds. And we now have been granted permission to use that to fund easements. For the previous tax year, so this would have been 2022 tax year numbers, that was $4.2 million that was committed to farmland preservation in Wake County. Which is a lot of money, and it's actually the largest amount of money at the county level that's ever done in the state. The region caps the nation, although that's a little less clear, so I don't want to brag about that. But it looks like a lot of money, and I think we saw, at first, we thought it was a lot of money, but we quickly realized it didn't go very far. All of that money has been either spent or allocated to future projects that we are waiting to close on. So just wanted to kind of highlight those two big wins we've had early. So on the left is a celebration for the Okie Grove Farm, which is a farm in eastern Wake County near Wendell. That project was funded and approved in August of last year. Actually closing next week. It took a long time for the federal arm of this project to come together. But that was a big early win. And then to the right, we have the Bailey Farm, also in Wendell. This one closed just in end of last year, December. So we've had two huge wins already, which have been grateful. And they've really helped to put us out there in the community and let folks know that this program is legitimate. We mean business. So I just want to, again, highlight some of the early successes. So in the past year, we've added an additional nearly 1,400 acres to our voluntary ag district program, bringing the total for the total existence of VAD in the county to about 12,500 acres. We have added our first EVAD parcels. We have 3 EVAD parcels, 128 acres in total. Of course, as I mentioned, we've got the 2 conservation easements, totaling about 250 acres. And then we are currently in the process on 7 different applications for future easements with landowners and programs. So these are applications to federal and state grant programs that we're also going to use county money. Some of that money I mentioned before to hopefully help fund. So the program we're growing rapidly, and we are trying to find ways to ensure we have long-term success. As the funding changes, as the priorities change, we want to make sure we are angle in the future. And so one of the big things that we have seen as an opportunity for growth is partnering with municipalities to let them know that our program exists, get the recognition, get the support and buy-in from these communities as far as growing in the future. So as I mentioned, we're just looking for recognition, communication. I think there's a lot of overlapping goals and priorities as far as our goal of preserving farmland, and I know a lot of municipalities have different natural resource preservation goals and targets that they would like to meet. So one of my main goals for the next few years is to help solidify some of these partnerships. And my big ask going forwards is, how do we codify those partnerships? How do we, we all get to the table and recognize these programs and make sure that as municipal boundaries change, as ETJ lines change, that farmers in Wake County who are enrolled in our program don't get cut out of the program as the town changes around them. Just looking for recognition in that, because there are a lot of folks in the program who understand the county's changing and growing, but they still want to be able to farm and maintain their way of life. And we believe that there can be a happy medium there between what we have to offer and what the town has to offer. So that's why I'm here today to present. And Trevor, if you want to add anything to that, but be happy to answer any questions on the program. I'm going any more detail if you'd like to.
Yeah, I echo questions. So thanks for coming. It's great information. I had a question about the voluntary ag district and the enhanced voluntary ag district. Could you summarize again, what are the incentives for someone to opt into that for the actual property? Why would someone want to do that?
Yeah, so a couple reasons. For VAD, I think one of the big ones that we've seen come up a bit more frequently is the entitlement to a public hearing for any condemnation, where we've had a few more cases of utilities, roadway projects that are affecting landowners. And if they're in the VAD, it's another step in the process where they can be heard as far as the changes around them. Another one, like I mentioned, is recognition on the map. So if you look at Wake County IMAPs or City Raleigh IMAPs that we work with Wake County, any voluntary ag district in the county is highlighted on the map. So you are on the map, and that really helps for planning. Like I mentioned, any Wake County planning projects, we address VADs differently than non-VADs. So those are 2 big benefits. There also are protections for nuisance lawsuits. Being enrolled in the program and having to sign up basically is signaling to the neighboring community that you're an active farm. There might be noises, smells, right. There might be basically the environment of being around the farm, and it helps to let people know. Those are the big benefits we see. The other thing too is there's no cost to the program. It's completely free for landowners to enroll in. And for VAD in particular, they can opt out at any time. And we give them, that's our VAD sign that can hang on anywhere on the property. We give that to them when they join for free, which has become a significant cost.
So when you move from the VAD to the enhanced VAD,
Yes.
what does that step up the other property owners, because now they have to record a deed restriction, which.
So the two big differences are, it entitles you to a higher rate of cost share. So if you're a farmer and you work with our office on any conservation practices on your farm, you can actually receive more money, if you're in the enhanced program than if you're in just regular VAD. It also helps you with ranking criteria, both for easement applications and for other cost share work. So it makes you stand out amongst other farmers and other landowners in a competitive grant process. And the other one too, for producers that might have a farm stand, they might have an agritourism operation. It allows you, if you're in the EVAD program, it doesn't say it up here because I ran out of space for it, but if you're in the EVAD program, you can sell a higher percentage of non-farm goods and still qualify as a bona fide farm. So that's something people run into. If you have a farm stand and you're selling a bunch of stuff that you didn't grow, you're technically in violation of that bona fide farm statute. So this gives you more leeway in that.
Can you explain the last paragraph? They provide assessments for utilities provided by city. That's me. I'm a city, provide utilities. Or they can only be held in abeyance with or without interest. What does that mean?
That's that is kind of the statutory language, but it hints to the protection and public hearing requirements. So basically, it's saying like, you have the entitlement to be heard regarding any condemnations. Again, it doesn't restrict it, doesn't mean it won't happen, but it gives you an extra voice in that.
You can share your assessment of what that utility expansion would do to your operation, and you get the chance to be heard and voice there.
That's it. Yeah, thanks.
And okay, you have one quick question. So I'm gonna build on this question. So what is our definition of a farm? Is that from the statutory definition North Carolina has? And building out from that in order to take advantage of, say, the EAVAD or conservation district, do you have to be an existing farm now? Or is that land that you can you apply before you're a farm with the intention of becoming farmland, or do you have to be already pre-existing, identified as agricultural land in order to make the application?
A little bit of nuance there. So mostly, yes. So when we are assessing properties to be enrolled in the program, our criteria mostly mirror the bona fide farm statute at the state level. So a big component of that is land area. So if you're a horticultural operation, it's 5 acres. Ag is 10, forestry is 20. So question 1 is, do you have the acreage? Question 2 is, are you producing some? The threshold for production it's not super high. I think $1,000 a year.
Sales a year.
A year.
Very low, but they do have to be producing something.
Right, it's an average of $1,000 over a 3-year period.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's probably for some forestry things and things that take longer than a year to actually generate sales. So, yes.
But so before we're gonna let someone in, we want to make sure they're in production. But they don't have to be enrolled in the state present use value program. So we do have some farms that are in the VAD that aren't in present use value. And I tell them every day, please enroll in present use value, because that's actually going to save you tax money. I can't save you tax.
Okay, so, all right, so in terms of, so you want to see current at least active production, and I guess that would, because what I'm trying to envision is there a way that we can say, talk to like 3 or 4, parcel owners who are willing to say, hey, you know what, we all want to make sure that this maintains farmland or maintains its value as an agricultural district, but they're currently not engaged.
I do think, the question there, I think, is size, because all of these have these size minimums. I got this little cheat sheet I'll hand out to y'all that has some other types of policies that y'all could look at adopting or crafting your own versions of that would maybe apply to smaller parcels, that would change zoning permitting for agricultural use within different zoning districts. And if there's folks from planning or parks who want to work with us to craft those policies, that's kind of one of the other things we're building is work groups to craft some of those municipal policies that would support things like this, but also potentially expand those definitions, protections, and potentially offer incentives.
And you've heard that this is not simply for like food production, for vegetable or vegetation production, and applies to livestock as well. So it does, we don't care which definition under as a farm.
Right, because forestry would apply too. They just have a slightly different, it's 20 acres of forestry. Yeah, anything that meets the state's definition of agriculture would apply.
And any limitations on whether or not that's, commercially owned property versus say like family owned.
We don't have any guidelines that stipulate ownership.
Okay.
I will say almost all of our VAD parcels are small family farms. Even if on the deed it might be an LLC, it's, LLC constructed for the family. But it's the absolute vast majority are family.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, making sure that we won't have, if, as we're doing this, if someone were to say, what's the limitation on, say, like, commercial use of the family parcel, that sort of thing. And I guess if you're going by the state's that definition, you should be okay, but in your thoughts.
So the municipality, and I've got some policy examples here where municipalities have decided on their own definition of what counts as a farm, and you can stipulate your own things. I think our first ask is just an MOU with the town to recognize these existing programs. And then if y'all want to construct a supportive policy environment around this that promotes and protects urban agriculture within town limits, I'd be really happy to work with staff to craft those policies that we could then make presentations at a later time to propose for adoption.
You already have like a template MOU that our staff could look at to let us know. I need a new, all right, I have it. Yeah, great.
Any other questions? No, we only have 3 members here, but
Yeah.
it's worth exploring. The rest can watch the meeting.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more and be able to get on other ways that we can support your work.
Yeah. We currently don't have, I don't know if I mentioned, we have MOU with no municipality yet, so this would be the first one we would be willing to entertain it. I think it would go a long way for us, and brag about it as well.
Just a good to be able to be first on there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and the policies. Great statement.
All right, we're gonna take a brief recess. Take a recess. Yeah. But call it, I guess, really. you would, please join me for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, floor is yours.
All right, we're ready. So, this is the Town of Apex Solar feasibility study. I'll try to get through a lot of this quickly. Main purpose of this was to provide enough information, just for you guys to make a decision. So I tried to do that as best as I could in a way that makes, I guess, sense to me. I'll try to explain that. Hopefully it'll make sense to you guys. If you have any questions, I'd like this to be more of a discussion. So feel free to just jump in. All I'm kind of going to really go over is how I put the study together. Some of the information that might be relevant, relative to some of the decision-making processes. And basically, some of the sites, we can dive down in some of the sites and look at kind of what was the best, what's the worst, stuff like this. So, on the first page, I've got summaries and stuff, but I'll go straight to the table. So these were the projects. Table one was the project that you guys gave me to evaluate. All this information was you guys provided me. The ones in the gray were under construction at the time that we did this study. So well, a lot of it was, couldn't really evaluate the site and construction. But we did have drawings and pictures and stuff like that. Now, table two is the utility information for each site. I will say, I've left this table in there just for reference, but as we went through this initially last year and around May, June, we quickly found out that typically we do a solar study, everybody wants to know, is it going to be a benefit financially? Put solar up here, how much I can save, is it going to pay back? These projects are a little bit unique in the sense that your utility is different than any other utility. Your rates are much lower. So to do the financial analysis on how much you're going to save at instance, it's somewhat relative. It's really not going to be a payback. That's just because your utility is so cheap. As a, yes, what do you call it? You spend, but I left this information for reference so you can see the peak demand on some of these sites. Some of these sites are very low. I don't think we had everything. Some of these buildings, like number 29, they're a different building on the same site, but fed from the same utility as. So like this electrical main office here, storage and warehouse were a separate building, but basically fed from the main office utility.
So let me interject there. So when he went through this initially last year, he came back and I think there was 1 or 2 sites that he said, hey, you're like 1, 2 sites that I would recommend solar based on payback. I said, back up. We want to look at this differently. We want to look at every facility that we have and if it can produce some solar, we want you to put solar on it and tell us how much it would produce, because he has programming that can look at the orientation, the amount of solar that it can support, and the shading that's around it. Look and see how much it can produce, generally what it costs, and then try to come back and provide enough data that council can look at it and decide if they want to put it on all these structures, or if there is a structure that's got a very minimal amount of solar availability, that, you know, a shelter out at the park. Say there's only a small area on the on the roof. It's shaded. You know, he might got a discount, just say, you know, that's just not a place to put one. There might be another shelter that you can put it on. You have sun, you know, and he can provide that cost and y'all can decide whether or not that's something that's you would want to do. So he went back and looked at it through a different lens than what he would normally be doing a solar study. It's not about payback. It's really about, is there a benefit? Will it produce solar? And what does it look like? And that's what we try to get to here. So that's the reason all this data is normally very relevant, but not as relevant in this situation. So that's kind of, so he went back after that and then built on these other options after we had that discussion.
I appreciate you having.
Go ahead, thank you.
Thanks for that. So we did look at, I do have a table where we have levelized cost. And that formula is right here on page. There's some assumptions you have to kind of make with that. And those are basically right here where it's 25 years, the degradation of the equipment, inflation, and this maintenance cost. I think, so there was, I think an early question about the 3 to 5 pounds per square foot, when we evaluated structure. We did it based on 3 pounds, but pretty much every roof is, attachment. It's a shingle roof. So we don't have like a ballast blocks or anything like that. Just primarily just the paneling and that. So it's definitely not as much as 5 pounds.
So the maintenance cost, are we talking yearly or is that over the life of the 25 years?
I believe it's over the cost of 25 years. But yeah, but I think it's more like cost now versus cost later. Maybe a little bit. Everything is kind of stuff. So as table 3, so the first thing we did was the site evaluation. That is this attachment. And I know there's a lot of, this kind of shows you a lot of the pictures that we took while we were on site, what we were looking for. Basically the electrical panel, the roof type, structural, some of the columns and stuff like that. General spaces that, you know, how we looked at each site, whether or not we could actually do solar. So in general, the first question I asked myself based on this new evaluation is, can we actually put solar on the roof? We had several buildings that didn't even have power. So obviously those were out, as you know, there's no reason to install a whole service just for solar. There were several shelters and stuff that were basically in the woods. So not really any solar gain as far as, you know, sunlight in those areas. Other buildings, there's a couple buildings that had weird shaped roofs. So just adding solar panels was a little bit problematic. The way the roofs were broken up. And then I just kind of gave like some more commentary with some other stuff. Really the purpose of this site investigation was to kind of whittle it down. If we can't put solar, there's no reason to kind of look at this any further. So this was kind of like a filtering part of it on some basically major issues. I did keep some buildings, as we look through here, do have structural issues. Some buildings do, well, pretty much most buildings need roof replacements. We don't know if it's solar typically on a roof that you're going to have to replace in a year or two. But I didn't want to discount those right away, so I kept those on so that we could look at solar. And then if you guys have a maintenance program or something that's gonna take care of those issues anyways, you can still evaluate the solar. So table 4 is our structural analysis. This was here's what we have. What is the structural condition, average, or, extremely poor? The idea of this is there may be some, as if you were to move forward with solar and do a design, there may be some minor structural reinforcement you have to do. Really what we wanted to let you guys know is there major issues with the structure? There were a couple on here that did have major issues just because of the deterioration. So we noted those. Again, I didn't want to take them off. I'm just trying to give you guys the information. But you'll see later as we go through the last slide, those are pretty far down on the list. Any of these that have major issues, I kind of rank them last. So, just because there is a huge cost in that. And I don't know if you want to look at examples if we have time, but some of the site visit columns, you can see the pictures and stuff like that. Any other questions? I'm going too fast, just let me know.
I just want to say, like, structural engineering, why, hi, I'm a structural engineer. There's not any buildings that are gonna fall down. I just want to put that out there. So when you say major issues, I think we all go to, they're not safe. It's just, there's some issues and I don't think that we necessarily want to put money into solar panels until we maintain the building a little bit more.
Yeah, same with like the roof, I put solar when you got a column that's rotted.
Yeah.
Table 5 is where we really get into the meat of the solar. And table 5 is basically a summary of this attachment, which this attachment shows you how I've laid out solar on all the roofs. And it gives you basically the size of the system and the production, just things of that nature. I'll come back to this because if you want to look at a couple, there were some that were, the very first one was a good facility. This is the Parks Recreation Maintenance Building. This is oriented south, so it does have good orientation. It's a metal roof, which was really easy to live on. There are some large trees that this photo from Google Maps is a little bit outdated, but there are some large trees here that do kind of give it some shading. But for the most part, I mean, this is a good roof to just, pick up. The service, electrical service, everything like that is easy to connect to. It is a metal building, so fairly good shape. So that's a good one. Maybe a 4 one. On is number 12, which is the Kelly Road restroom shelter. But basically, it is a restroom shelter that's oriented to the east. There's several large trees to the west of that building. We did put solar on it. It's kind of hard to gauge how much of the shading issues it is with this program. But I mean, it basically took out half the roof as far as shading. So yes, you can put solar on the roof, especially on that part that is going to get sun. Is it going to be a lot of production? Not a whole lot, but yeah, you can certainly capture some there. So I did carry over the peak utility usage. I indicated the racking style, the system solar size, the production, information. And then basically just a cost estimate on if you were to put solar on this roof, what's it going to cost? So this is just primarily just the solar. Doesn't really take into account some of like, if you're gonna do roof replacements or any structural repairs or anything like that, so. And then this is our levelized cost of energy usage. So this is typically what you use to say, how much am I paying and what is my utility cost of solar? That's kind of how this is compared. So you can see here that for like 14 cents, where maybe a typical utility or something is like 8 cents. And table 6, after we've taken in all the solar information, the structural information, table 6 is just regurgitating the important information in this table so that you can kind of read it. Is solar recommended? If it had a major issue, we're like, no, it's not recommended. We have the capital cost, the system size, the solar potential. This is kind of what I put in there. If the building was facing east, it's cooler. Some of them do have excellent potential as far as their orientation. Then basically, this was kind of like just to help you guys out. Like if you were going to move forward, which projects might be the ones you pick first. This was purely subjective in my part. I tried to do it just based on what I thought was the easiest, most beneficial, and basically what made sense. So obviously, like new buildings were better than older buildings. Some of the bigger systems were better than the smaller systems. Some that had more production versus others less. So that's how I rank them. And then basically the final table, which is 7, it's just that same stuff in order of rank. That way it kind of makes it a little cleaner to see which jobs kind of look the best. So I hope that was a good overview. If we do have some time here, I'd like to kind of dive down a little more. If you guys have questions, feel free to have. Easier if I answer questions versus.
So, it looks like in the tables you have a flat cost per kilowatt hour. Where do you get that number from? Well, I should look at the costs, the approximate total capital cost, or just be a multiple of the number, the size of the system, right?
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
like, just a typical cost of. So that's based on the equipment itself and just approximate labor and stuff. Since all of them are basically the same type of system, they're all fairly close.
That based on market data, or you didn't go off and get estimates, you just.
Oh, yeah, market data, typical market data, typical watts per square foot or dollar per square watt.
Dollar per watt.
Yeah.
Right.
For this particular case.
So for, on that point, another thing that came up earlier, we're talking about the report, is the existence of, federal dollars for municipalities to help, deploy solar on their systems. I guess maybe a more question for staff, like, I don't really know anything about that program, but I definitely want to get federal dollars. Like, free money is good, right? We all agree on that. Are we aware of those programs, and are we able to pursue them if we move forward with some of the solar? Do you guys know what that is?
So we'll definitely be looking into the program. As part of the abilities.
Okay.
We've got the ability to attempt to tackle it, put it that way. Anything, but yes.
I see. We don't have any information about what they are. I'd like to know more about the program, sure, because that can inform like, the amount that we do, for example, there's a maximum, like those grants, I want to maximize the amount of.
Yeah, I think we have to, unless Daniel or anybody has any, I think we have to look, I mean, we know there's things out there, but I think we have to look a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, Don Reeves, our sustainability coordinator, I sat down, we got to see this a little bit in advance, so we kind of had that exact same conversation. So I know Don's looking into different programs to find some, what money's available for us to be putting towards solar panels. Help offset some of this cost and make that ROI better for us.
Great. And then another random question for you guys. I know that our bill from Duke, deals a lot with the peak demand. And there was some conversation we had about purchasing batteries at some point, either to charge from Duke directly off peak or potentially charge with solar panels. So is that something that we thought about, like some of these sites, which maybe, and I haven't gone through the data line by line, but is there an opportunity for us to get batteries on the sites to discharge them during peak hours to help offset the peak demand from Duke? Or is that silly?
So Eric's been working, getting RFP together to send out so that we can find out what's out there. We've talked to a couple and we talked to one outfit that was doing battery storage. The thing with, like to your point, we need to be able to discharge it when on demand, right? So, and basically the one group that was pushing the batteries and looking at trying to see if they could make a solar system work, literally told us that they couldn't make a solar combined with a battery system work for our system, not when it comes to dollars and cents, because we buy power at 2.5 cents or 2 cents and it just went to 2.5 cents. So from a strictly point of trying to reduce the peak, their take, and we're gonna put RFP out there, we'll see what anybody can come back with, because there may be somebody else that can make it work. That their consideration was, because one, I don't think you want a bunch of batteries around. I think it's better to have the batteries near your substation. And that, in that case, it was cheaper for us to go strictly with battery storage at that location. They said they couldn't make anything work with less than 3.5 cents. I think they did a system, they said in South Carolina, wasn't there, where they did 3.5 cents and its payback was like 50 years.
We're always buying the 2.5 cents. Need a system with 3.5 cents on the discharge. It would never make sense to attach a solar panel to it. Cheaper.
Right, and then the individual solar panels, like putting batteries at these individual locations, that's a lot of infrastructure. And solar system, the solars that we're putting on top of the, on our facilities aren't really large enough to charge the type of batteries that we're talking about. We're talking about a 10 megawatt type system to be able to really reduce our peak.
Scalability issue too.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is staff looking for from us out of this report? Is there a certain direction you want, or we just?
I think we probably, I think we've got one is going to see what kind of grants are out there and what that may be available and how much we could get from that.
Yeah.
Second is, I think if we total up all the projects on here, it's at 1.8. And that's not considering the engineering and all of that other stuff. So I would say you're probably looking at like a $2.2 million for all of it. So, we could do this different ways. We could have council say, I like the first 3 and the one that's listed number 10. You could tell us the specific ones you wanted. You could tell us to do the 5 biggest ones. You could tell us to pick out $1 million worth. I mean, we really just need to know how you want us to progress, move forward, because it is cheaper for us to do a larger package of these than it is to do one over here and one over there. And the other thing is we want to standardize on the equipment that we're using so that we don't have all these different ones. And when you do it, when you combine them, you can get, you pretty much going to get the same components in that one bid, and you get, some economies of scale. But so we can do it by do the top 3. We can do X number of dollars worth. However you want us to approach it is how we can move forward. We just need some direction and then we'll go with it.
We can build out a plan. How fast are you looking at it?
Right. If you want to say do it over 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, we could break it down. We could look at the list and we could, fit it into a program that we just scheduled that you want to meet and make sense logistically and cost wise.
Table 6 and just go by, the solar potential ratings, maybe do ones that are rated excellent.
That's table 7.
Um,
I think table 7 is table 6 sorted by priority.
17.
Page 17.
There's basically a recommendation on solar potential. And it basically says excellent, satisfactory, for the ones that have the bigger potential. Makes sense to me to do those first, kind of as a grouping, and we're adding those totals up, we get close to $500,000. I think it's 475 or something like that, so. And then one of them looks like it needs potential roof replacement, so of course adding other engineering cost.
Sure, and I think it makes sense if a roof needs to be replaced to, wait for the lifetime of the roof and then that point. To me, I think the highest priority is one, I want to get them out of Pleasant Park. Because I want that to be our modern new park and just show everyone like, hey, your solar panels here, it's new and shiny. Sad they're not there today. So to me, that's a priority, and I'm glad to see they're ranked really highly. The other place is, for similar reasons, the senior center. Like, if you have a roof that's really visible to public, I want them to be able to see these solar panels. And it's almost like an advertisement for the technology.
Would you like us to start with, we can build a plan for, start with the excellent, I think you're spot on to do, just, we can kind of target that as one package. Which is satisfactory. There's a thing we can come back and evaluate, maybe afterward,
That makes sense to me.
Read this, it's a little bit satisfactory, that you're need some.
Right, so I think we need a little more time to maybe evaluate that extra cost that goes into that for the structural pieces. The excellent ones, I think we have the benefit of, they're new.
Yeah, they're new.
They're new and they're on the park, so we can look at what the CIP looks like.
So, yeah, I guess it sounds like where we're going is like, look at the project over a 3-year period, do a priority order, and after 2 years, we'll see the value and what's left and how the rollout's done at that point. I think it'll be an excellent plan, and,
It will kind of, guide will be this table, like the potential, like using the potential of our. Okay, this one.
but table 7 is just table fixed sort of by potential, right?
Now, if you want me to just for, like, if you're looking at a certain column on one table and you want to look at it on the other table, just let me know, I can bring those columns in. I just chose to hide some of them so I can put on the page.
Where's the satisfactory?
I think it's similar. I was trying to check it. Alright. That's kind of general guidance. We can start putting that plan together. Daniel, and Matt, and Eric. Get it out. So we'll work on the little package that we like this year, is that right? Okay, it's a, or the budget, when we're having the budget discussion. Yeah. Well, it'll be in the budget, but we'll identify that.
Yes.
So you can see what that impact is, so you consider what. What we'll put together, feeling what.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, budget.
Yeah, I guess. And that's, again, I'm excited to hear about the programs available for us to maximize leverage our dollars.
So, Daniel, just wanted me to point out, so municipal building over here and public safety 6 are both solar ready. So I would recommend that we include those in the first round of the packaging. So, you know, I'm not sure of the amount of solar at Public Safety 6, but I will note that the municipal building is just up on that high pitch roof. It's because of how that facility is made. You could not get them on the flat part of the roof. But it is,
We can wrap those in. And we can, you know, and I think the good part of this is that we bring that to you as a package, which we get into budget discussions and you say, well, hold on. Still part of, if needed, but trying to thank you anyway for that. Those are two new facilities that are set.
I would also consider the senior center in that as well, because it is one of our newer buildings out here. I know it's on the pricier range compared to some of the others, but it'd be something to say, hey, if you, that's something else we can add in as part of the package.
We'll see where we're.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm excited, but this is a long time coming, but I have the report and this is a really interesting data that could back on.
Questions on it?
Anything else? That's it. That's all we have? Oh, man, I feel like we're asking for something.
Not gonna bring anything.
We probably like, we probably might be a little bit.
It's just discussing people, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
And I know we also had a lot of discussion last. So,
Yeah.
I think, we're glad that you found value in this chart in the report, kind of giving us next steps where to go. And we got a couple projects that are doing a lot. In the right direction.
It's all involved. Thank you so much.
Okay.
More business?